Don Reader. I think it's funny, the division between our two backgrounds.
Couldn't be more different, hey? Yeah, you've got people.
And I see yours, and I imagine just standing there in the location.
If I was to put a person in, it would, I feel, for me, it'll immediately give it a sense of perspective, not enable the viewer, the onlooker, to imagine themselves there.
Yeah.
And that's what is important to me, is to encourage other people to dream, other people to use their imagination and go, yes, I know that beach. People have said to me, oh, that's the beach I grew up on. And they've been from Africa, America, France and Australia, UK. And I think, well,
no,
I've done my job then. You know, I've done my job, because if you think it could be all of those places, it's what I want to paint for me resonates for other people in their memories of what they want it to be.
There is this sense when you look at your seascapes that something's about to happen.
Yeah.
You feel like you do that on purpose, you know that.
Yeah, because the lovely thing for me about the sea is the fact that actually it's always moving. So there's always something about to happen. And if you don't capture, I really like the fact you said that, actually, because if you don't capture the sea as if something's about to happen, you haven't caught the sea. And I used to travel around quite a lot all over the world to find the perfect waves. But what I realised that I loved was the light and the way it dances on the water, it shines through the water, it reflects, refracts, and it does all amazing things. And all my life I've admired painters who really capture, like, you know, people like Rembrandt, Caravaggio, all the old masters. If you look at their paintings, it's all about the light, and it brings that depth, and it just brings it to life. You've got to have the light in there.
They're beautiful. I was looking at them, and I called them photorealism, and you said something very funny to me.
I said that I wasn't a photorealist because I take out a huge amount of surfers, dogs, plastic bags, seaweed, and just concentrate on an essence.
Almost all of the objects are gone from your paintings now, and you can't even really find a bird. You know, you look at these and you feel like you found the perfect beach, the perfect seaside.
So what I do is I go to a beach, for example. I do a huge amount of sketching, watercolours or colour notes, pencil sketches. I write down thoughts and what I might want to portray. Obviously I photograph as well. And then I go back to my studio, and then I remove all the detritus from what I want to say, because what I want to say is something usually quite about the beauty, about the peace, about the freedom, about the light. You know, it's all these things that if you live in a big city, it's all the things you yearn for. That's what I want to concentrate on. And I do a lot from memory, so that a lot of it is all about what I want to say. So I put quite a lot of something else in, rather than painting from a photograph, or you know, I don't do as the Pre-Raphaelites did, for example, who were photorealists, and they went out and painted every leaf in fine detail. I mean, oh, no way. You know, otherwise I'd have to sit here and paint every grain of sand if I was a photorealist proper. But no, these are very simplified down forms that give an illusion of, you know, it is something that a lot of people say, I thought it was a photograph, but actually it's what I portray, I think, is something more about everybody's memory. Because we've all been to the sea, we've all been to the woods, we've all maybe some of us have climbed mountains, and we all have a memory of it, which is actually pretty similar, you know. So the memories of a particular place. So my work is never about a particular place. It's more about the essence of something bigger.
That you have captured it.
4 years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed to have spoken to you. I wouldn't have dreamed about it because I was so shy. I'm so shy. Naturally, I'm so shy.
Is this your first online interview?
Yes, it jolly well is. It's only the second time I've used Zoom. Yeah, it's all a bit new. I tried using Zoom the other day total failure, total and utter. I'm not a techie person at all, but I don't know, I couldn't even get into this other person's Zoom. I was supposed to do some online teaching for her, a friend of mine and her child who has severe learning difficulties, and couldn't do it, so we had to FaceTime each other, which was interesting, trying to teach somebody over the internet. But
so you teach as well?
No, I'm definitely not a teacher. No, I haven't got the patience to be a teacher. I think I signed up for a mentorship program, so I'm used to mentoring, but a teacher, no. I'm very good. I like to think I'm very good at encouraging other people. So I think a mentorship is a fine balance between tutoring, teaching, and just encouragement, really.
I wanted to talk to you about your education as an artist. I've heard that at art school sometimes there aren't a lot of guidelines and you're kind of left to yourself.
We weren't really taught at art school, and I was at art school for 6 years or something, and we were just given the opportunity to explore. So you do a foundation where you do all the different mediums that you want to explore. Then you do a degree, and my parents didn't actually think I was possibly good enough to be an artist. And also, you know, it's got a really bad reputation being an artist, and very financially unlucrative. So they thought, well, she'd better be a teacher. So they signed me up my mother signed me up to go to teaching school to learn how to be a teacher, and I just changed it to art halfway through, and she was thinking, oh no, what's she going to do? So anyway, and that was in the public art arena, and then I got a proper job, got the sack, and thought, I travelled around Italy for a while thinking, what do I want to do? I want to paint, and I remember going into a church. It was so hot in Italy, and I went into this church and I leant against what supposedly was this marble pillar, thinking that will cool me down. But it was as warm as the rest of the church, and I was like, that's quite rare for marble because it's known for its cool qualities. And I looked down and I saw all this flaking paint on the floor, and I thought, you can do that with paint? So that inspired me. That small moment totally inspired me to go and apply for a master's at Chelsea, and I didn't apply for any other place, any other college or anything, and got in and flew from there onwards. But actually, if I'd have done anything like what I do now, I'd have been thrown out within seconds, and I would never have been accepted into Chelsea ever, because I was very abstract then.
The Chelsea school seems very wild, exploratory, and it doesn't really. So you were abstract, and then later after school you found yourself.
Well, I just love beautiful things. I do love lighthouses. I just love their solidity, and I don't know, it's something very encouraging. Again, encouragement for me is very important. And I mean, Chelsea Art School in London is an amazing place, and you either fit in or you don't. Not everybody gets through art school, not everyone from art school goes on to become a professional artist. It's a dream of many people, and I think if you've got it here, you know you've got it here, and you carry on doggedly, determinedly. You know, there are sacrifices to be made for something you adore and love and you have a passion for. And I certainly made those sacrifices. But when I left art school, I thought, you know, I'd have all this integrity, and I thought, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And actually, I didn't earn any money. And I thought, okay, if somebody wants Mickey Mouse painted on their front door, I'll do it, because I need to earn some money. So I put on a bit more of a business cap, less of a woe is me, poor starving artist hat. And I made it work, and then went from that into painting more murals. And doing paint finishes, specialist paint finishes, like marbling and wood graining and gilding, really old-fashioned techniques that would have survived the centuries. And I thought that they'll never lose anything. You know, there's always going to be a call for that in one way or another, whether it's in public buildings or beautiful private homes. It doesn't really matter. And so, yes, and I've sort of mixed and merged all these techniques. So everything that I do in the commercial world with the murals and the paint finishes, I've sort of encompassed into my paintings. And it's it's quite an enjoyable way of painting, because I never run out of resources in my own head and in the exploration of anything. I never run out of a different way to paint and a different way to look at things. It's exciting, and I think that's what you got to keep on with painting, isn't it? You've got to keep exploring it and pushing yourself and finding out what else you want to say, or how you want to portray it. So I tended to, once I got my masters, I did my masters really for me, because I lacked confidence, and I thought I need to do this for me. I want the MA after my name, and the opportunity. And I worked hard. It was a part-time MA, and I worked really hard. I had a lot of different jobs to support me, it was good times. Hard work, but sort of flew from there on in. Really,
I can see that you have a pretty extensive history online, and so I was able to see some earlier pieces. They're nothing like what you do now. I do see that your technique is so masterful, really. That I saw some walls that you painted, and I put this, you can't really see it with the glare, but I put this Japanese vase behind me. I saw that you were painting those Japanese vase walls.
Yes, I sort of fell into that. So I was working for some top really good interior designers in London, and they said, did I do chinoiserie? And so I thought, well, I can paint birds, trees and flowers, and yes, I'm happy to adapt into a chinoiserie style, but with a contemporary twist. What I don't want to do is copy other people's things 100%, unless it's a proper marble or a proper wood grain or something like that. I don't ever really want to produce something that people pay a lot of money for these things, and I respect that they would like something original and unique on their wall, or a hotel doesn't want to look like any other hotel. They've hired me to do a job that is specifically for them. So I think that's why I wanted to do something with a twist. And the designers that I was working for, they were always mixing and matching the old and the new, and coming up with new ideas all the time. And whatever they touched, it was so stylish. So we'd always have very good communication between us as to what they wanted to achieve. They'd give me I know it sounds terrible in the artist world, but in the design world, you get given swatches and you get given plans and everything else. So what else is going in the room vaguely. Maybe not everything, because they like to do a few poppy bits here and there. But and we'd work as a team. But yes, so the chinoiserie thing was something I really enjoyed doing. Because you can get these really cheeky, gawky looking birds and leaves that weren't quite right, and yes, I can adapt to style. I can paint virtually everything. I do a lot of practicing. I work every day, and always have done. I work long hours, and I do a lot of research, and I practice. Also in London, you're very fortunate in that you can easily go to all the big museums and see all this for real, and you get the opportunity in the museums and the galleries to just sit there and look like an art student and copy a masterpiece. And so I also did actually do a couple of courses with a college outside of London that specialised in specialist paint finishes. But I picked it up as I went along, really. And also, where I lived in London, my next door neighbour was an old-timer, sort of old school painter, proper painter decorator. And it was something that they used to do in their apprenticeship. They just did it. It was part of their job to be able to wood grain bars and polish it up and everything else. It was part of their job to be able to marble a wall. And he saw me practicing on my walls at home. And he went, oh, no, you don't do it like that. What you've got to do, Dawn, is make it commercially viable. Because I started off when everything was oil-based. So the front door was open onto the street. He could just walk in if he wanted. Anybody could have walked in at any time. And he went, no, you don't want to do it like that. You do it like this. So he showed me some other things. So I learnt it from a proper, traditional, old school guy. His name was Tom. And It was he went out and stole brushes for me. And I loved that about him. He'd say, "Oh, these are my old brushes." I go, "They look brand new, Tom." No. They're not my old brushes, Dawn.
I like Tom.
We all need a Tom. No, we don't. No, we don't.
So you left London and now you are...
I left London. I was in London for about 30 years. So I count myself as a Londoner. I think wherever I live, I will always be seen as a Londoner. Always. A London accent or a southeast accent. I'll never fit in wherever I go in the southwest or any other part of the country. Doesn't matter. I look like a Londoner. I have a bad sense of humour like a Londoner. And yes, I'll always be a Londoner. But I decided that I moved out of London because my studio was getting knocked down. There was a gentrification where I was living. They knocked down the artist studios. It was an amazing place just off the King's Road. Sounds very glamorous, but it was a total anomaly in the heart of one of the richest areas of London. They knocked it down for more luxury apartments, which is something we really didn't need, and threw out hundreds of creatives, musicians and writers, artists, photographers, and all sorts of different makers. And they built all these luxury apartments and they called it the artist quarter. So it was harder and harder to find a studio to work in. I need a workshop or a studio to work in. There's absolutely no way I can do this in a house because I still use oils for my paintings. And it stinks, absolutely stinks. Even though I use a terps, something made out of orange zest, so it's an equivalent, but it still stinks. And you can't shut the door on an aroma. So I need to be able to shut the door on the smell. The paintings, however, once they're dry, go into the house and they basically stay and fester. But at least I haven't got open tubes of paint everywhere, And you can breathe in the countryside, and I'm closer to the sea, and you can see trees, and you can go for walks, and I don't know, it appeals to me. I've always painted the sea, but I was always tied to London for work, for painting for the designers. And then I thought, no more. You can pay your bills, and work to pay your bills all the time. And of course, out in the countryside, you have less bills. There are no coffee shops. You can't go and buy a coffee. So suddenly, you can't really go to a restaurant or the theatre or anything because there's nothing here. There's just nothing here. So, apart from the glories of the countryside. And that suddenly appealed to me. I just thought, I was brought up in the wilds, and you can take a wild child and put her into the heart of the city, but you can't take the wild out of the child. You just can't. So I've gone back to my roots, really.
I recently just did that myself. In March, I left the city and now I'm back in the countryside, and it's like, yeah.
Exactly. And what I try and paint is when you first go to the sea, you just go, oh, and you just relax and you feel your batteries recharged, and and you see something beautiful, and I want to capture that wow factor and that feeling, and it's so overpowering, and get some of that majesty that surrounds us in the sky and the sea or the landscape. I want to capture all of that.
A natural mirror.
Oh, natural mirror, yes.
It's the same type of painting that you do, but you've looked down, and it's kind of, it's so different from, it still goes into that vastness, but...
That's a relatively new one. I did that about 2 years ago, and I was clambering down these really steep cliffs, and because I saw this huge pool of water with all the jagged structures coming out of it, and I thought, that is amazing. And it had like this blue lagoon feel around it. And I thought, oh yeah, I think that's an amazing thing. That's the sort of, because I really am fascinated by the rocks now as well. So they're creeping in more and more, the rocks and the cliffs, and it's getting to going to a different place. Although these ones are still, very popular. Just the simple waves with the light shining through, they're always very popular. But I've been painting them for 30 odd years, so it's about time I moved on, really.
Yeah. So I think we've covered it. It's been very nice talking to you. You're very pleasant and.
Likewise.
Oh, thank you. Maybe we'll see each other at Art New York or something. That would be nice.
Maybe. Well, there is an art fair that I really love, and that's called the Other Art Fair. And they used to do one in Bristol, but they do them all over the world. And I do know that they do them in America as well. With the clientele that they command, I thought it was worth doing. A lot of artists won't, but it's also a curated one, which I think is an excellent idea to have a curated art fair.
Well, good luck to you. And if you make it to this side of pond, let me know.
I will. Okay, take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hi guys, I hope you liked this video. If you guys like this type of content, don't forget to subscribe and like.